Ever wondered what it takes to become the best player in EU? Enter Fnatic Derke. In this video, we will break down how Fnatic Derke uses MRA to complement his reactive aim. We'll dive deep into Derke's mental reactive aim, grip, and his ability to isolate pressure. We will also address Derke's weaknesses, so make sure to stick around as this will help you directly draw inspiration into your own gameplay. I think what makes this player a 2-time world champion is his reactivity, and the fact that he's unique in his own aim style. Like, you will notice his mechanics are unique. Usually the top tier players, like the best in the world, they will try to copy each other and draw inspirations from each other. For instance, like Demon 1 did with EA or Cryo. Demon 1 saw that passive aiming is a really consistent way to aim, like this methodical or calm aiming that EA does, and so he incorporated that in his own gameplay, in his own playstyle. But you see with Derke, actually, he differs from most of them, right? Derke, I wouldn't even say he's a raw aimer. So I wouldn't put his aim as good as Scream's, for instance, right? But I think his reactivity is what really sets him apart from all the rest of these players. And when you master reactivity and incorporate it in your gameplay the way he did, right, you'll be able to shit on any aimer, outduel any aimer that you come across. Why? Because you'll be able to shoot them first. I mean, I don't care how good your aim is. If I'm shooting you first, you're dead. Now, let's talk about Derke's grip, right? So there are 3 types of grips, and obviously versions of these grips. You have claw grip, palm grip, fingertip grip. Derke's grip is palm grip, which explains why he has less of control when it comes to crosshair stability. Now, palm grip is actually the best grip for reactivity because you are in a very natural position. So if I grab my mouse, right, you're in a very natural position. You're not tensing your muscles. You're not tensing your fingers, so you're not bending them. You don't have tense muscles. Now, if you have tense muscles, this restricts the blood flow in your hands. If your blood flow is restricted, your arm is going to send signals to your brain at a slower pace. So when you have them as he does, like a palm grip, calmly as he does, this is a calm grip. You have natural blood flow. You're not straining your hands as much as if you are like claw gripping, because when you claw grip, you need to like arch your fingers. You need to bend your fingers to get that control, especially also when you're fingertipping. You're fingertipping because of the surface contact with your inner palm. What this is going to force you to do is you're going to have to grip tighter to get that control with your fingertips. And this causes muscle tension. Muscle tension equals less blood flow. Less blood flow equals less reactive. So as you can see, even his grip complement the reactivity aspect of his aim. Now, what you will notice in this video is that Derke does everything to complement this reactivity aspect of his gameplay. Like when it comes to his mindset, his game sense, crosshair placement, mechanics, and movements, they all complement reactivity. He plays in such a way where he uses every single tool possible inside the game to make him more reactive than his opponent. Like for instance, with his movement, you will notice he never counter strafes. Instead, he will just like peek crouch and try to pre-fire. He wants to shoot first as fast as possible. And he does something called MRA, which I've covered, by the way, in a video on how to improve on your reactive aim. So check it out if you want to. MRA is basically a mental aspect that you can utilize to make you more reactive inside the game. So it kind of like boosts your reaction times when you're aiming. But despite your age, by the way, right? So I know a lot of people, they're gonna write, oh, but the younger are faster. Yes, I do agree with this to some extent. But there are things that you can do inside the game that even if someone has really good natural reaction time, right, you'll be able to shoot quicker than they do. So yeah, beautiful shots here. Really good start. Yeah. And you'll notice that Derke does this a lot, by the way. So when he's hovering through the map, his aim becomes inactive. He has very lazy crosshair placement when he's switching positions, right? So let's say he's going back from A to B, right? That pathing that he's going to take, you'll notice that his crosshair placement, he doesn't really care where it's at. It could be in the ground for all he cares. This is his aim just simply being inactive. So this is what I noticed with Derke too, is that he only aims when it's necessary to aim, as opposed to when you watch other players, so to speak, demons. What they will tend to do is they will try to angle trace throughout the entire game, every single angle, even when they're pathing back, even when they're switching position, they will always angle trace and make sure that they have good crosshair placement at all times. But actually what Derke is doing is really smart, because what he's doing when his aim is inactive, he's preserving energy. And I'll tell you more about this later, how this plays a role into making you become more reactive. Exactly, just look at his crosshair placement here when he's pathing back to C, right? Like his crosshair placement is terrible, but he just doesn't give a shit, right? He doesn't need to aim here, so why should he trace this angle and try to be flashy? He's just preserving as much energy as he can. And he wants to only aim when it's necessary. So this is somewhat a smart decision what he did here, right? So he wanted to peek default. Notice how he didn't push deep inside and activate his dash, kill someone and get out. He couldn't do that because they're gonna throw a KO knife and they're gonna stun default, and after that they're gonna flash. So he's literally screwed if he goes for an aggressive play here. Now what I would have done differently here is I would have anticipated the breach stunning default. It's a default position, so obviously he's gonna always stun it, unless he knows that I'm always pushing long. But the game just started, so he can't possibly know. So he will just stun default position. So what I would have done is just waited that, even the knife waited that, and now I would peek on a timing, activate my dash, try to get a kill when they're pushing in, and then dash out, smoke behind me, and try to position backside. Now he can 100% play backside here because he can easily dodge the aftershock. Also, the enemy team is not running Graze, and they don't even have a duelist, right? So they don't have a diver, so they can't really dive him. He can just lock down sight from backside safely. So it's a really smart play to go see here, right? And the reason for this is because in higher rank, what enemy will tend to do is they will try to counter your read. So it's less likely that they will go C again because they just went C and they got demolished. So why would they go C again? And they know that that Derke is thinking that. So they hit C again, right? And they try to catch him off guard. But Derke's on to them, right? So now, a lot of you think that this may be unnecessary, that he activated his jet knives, updrafted, and killed the Omen. But this is really smart. He caught him completely off guard. So if he peeks the Omen here, it's a 50-50. And if the Omen peeks him, it's a 50-50. Actually, it's a 70-30 for the Omen if Omen has flash and Derke just holds him. So Derke wants to up his chances of winning this duel. He wants to completely mess up any chance of Omen killing him, so he does this play, right? So he updrafts in the air, Omen crosshair can't catch up, and he just right click him. Easy kill. Why would he risk it and then give him C control? Now, this is a really bad decision to make here. And this is why I always tell players that it's not always wise to copy-paste pro players' gameplay, because they will not always do the right decisions, right? They're still learning. They're at the top of the game, but they still are learning. They still get cocky, right? They still do risky plays. As you can see here, it's a 3v1 round, and he's given the Breach a 1v1. Especially Breach has ultimate. If Breach kills Derke right here, it's going to become a 1v2. Then all Breach has to do is isolate one of Derke's teammates and get another 1v1, and then just ult the last guy, and he will win the round automatically.
Last player standing.
See, he actually almost won that. So Derke spamming C here is really smart, right? Because he's trying to counter their unpredictability. Also, he doesn't need to be A because he has two divers. There are two divers on his team, right? So it's Jet Race. Both of them can contest the A main really well. So he doesn't need to play A at all here. It's more optimal for Race to play A because of her nade, getting that early main control. So you see here he did it, which is what he should have done earlier. Dodge the Breach stun, try to anticipate the Breach stun coming, avoid it, like wait from a distance, let him stun, and then push up, peek, get your kill, and get out.
They cannot Omen.
Beautiful. And this is something even pro players struggle with. The idea of repositioning. People think that like denying information is just by like faking or throwing utility. But denying information can also be done through like directly through repositioning. Because if you make initial contact with an enemy, you want to almost always reposition. Deny them that information. Why would you risk staying in the same position, getting utiled out, getting pre-fired, getting pre-aimed, when you can just reposition and catch them off guard? And this is exactly what Derke is doing here. You see, like right after that Killjoy kill, he does not re-peek the same angle. He goes up to sight on an elevation and then re-peek the angle because he wants to throw off any pre-aim that's gonna try to trade the Killjoy. And this is exactly what makes him more reactive than most of the players. I call this mental reactive aim. And you will notice every time Derke is about to take a duel, he will tilt his head down, laser focus on his crosshair, and then just try to get his shot in first. He has mentally prepared to take his duel, and this puts him at a more of an alert state, so to speak. This makes him shoot quicker, especially with tilting your head down, you're opening your eyelids more. When your eyelids are opened way wider, you're more alert than if they are in a closed position. Now when it comes to Derke's pure aim, the only thing I would like introduce, and I think this is like the one thing that will really put him over the top of the top, is control. I would like to introduce some control to his aim. You can get away, I would say like 80% of the times, with just like crouch spraying and crouch bursting every single time if you are as reactive as he is, and if you do everything that he does to be even more reactive. But now picture this, imagine this. Imagine if he only uses his reactivity when it's necessary, but he uses his raw aiming skills when it's necessary. Because not every situation in Valorant is going to require you to be more reactive than an enemy. I'll give you an example, right? For instance, Jet updrafting on you with her knives out. You want to be able to flick upwards, kind of like how Demon 1 does. Demon 1 switches between aiming styles, and he switches appropriately. And you cannot do this if the only thing you're good at is reactivity and just getting your shots in first. You also need to have really stable crosshair placement, really stable mouse control. Your right flicking has to be on point. You also need to work on your raw precision, so just training on smaller targets. You will notice Derke, he does get these headshots in, but he doesn't really get them through like one taps or like peeking pre-fire and then in hiding, like strafing into cover. He always gets them through just like bursting. Most of the time it will just like burst on neck level. You'll also notice even his mindset complements his reactivity. You cannot be as reactive as he is if you're not calm throughout the game, and this is what he always preaches on his stream, to be calm, be calm, be calm. Because if you're stressing about what your teammate is doing, what utility to use, you will struggle to center your focus, and when you struggle to center your focus, you will not be able to shoot the enemy first. You won't be able to. You will oftentimes get punished, get caught off guard, you will lose focus throughout the game, so you always need to be in this calm state. And being in a calm state is actually the main precursor in putting you in flow state. So if Derke's flow state entails that he plays a game where he's constantly killing enemies because he's shooting them first, the precursor to that is the fact that he has a calm mindset. He is untiltable. That's what I would say is his number one reason to why he is as reactive as he is. His ability to center his focus. And if you want to improve on centering your focus, you can do this also through aim training, by the way, right? For instance, you don't really pay attention too much to the aiming technique, but you pay attention to yourself. How focused are you throughout this specific scenario? Now, you obviously want to pick the right scenario. So you want to pick a scenario that catches you off guard. The scenario that has an element of surprise, right? So not a scenario that you expect to happen. And this is where you should work on centering your focus during that scenario. So you need to work on that mindset technique more than the aiming technique. Now, obviously, you want to introduce aiming to it at a certain point because you also want to be physically reactive, not just visually reactive. I'll put in a code for a scenario that I've done with Oblivity that I think enforces that, right? It puts you in that kind of environment where the element of surprise is introduced, but also allows you to physically aim if you want to. Actually, what I would like to do is I would like to make a whole playlist that fixes Derke's weaknesses in terms of his aim. So basically control, angle tracking and control, and also help him improve even further on his reactivity. What I'd really like to say to end this review is that always look to draw inspiration from pro players. Never copy paste them, because when you copy paste them, you will never become unique. So you have two options here. You either perfect your system, the system that works best for you, the system that you enjoy the most, that you're most likely to flow with, or you introduce a whole new system that somebody's already years ahead of you at, like better at, and try to copy it and reach that level. You will always fall behind. They've done it way longer than you. They're better at it than you. And that's why I see like the best players in the world. Like if you look at Demon 1, you look at EA, you look at Cryo, you look at Les, you look at Aspaz, you look at Derke. They are all unique in their own sense. You have one who's a reactive aimer, one who's a mixed aimer, one who's strictly a passive aimer, one who's a methodical aimer. You don't have them copying each other. That's how you break through the skill ceilings, is if you become unique in your own gameplay. You need to have your own persona, your own gameplay, and that's what you need to perfect. To determine your own gameplay is basically, what are you good at? This is what you need to ask yourself. What am I good at? What do I enjoy the most? Because only when you perfect what you're good at, you will have a higher chance at beating players like that. For instance, take me, right? I'm an op main. Right, I'm an op 1 trick. Now, I've been an op 1 trick since I was a kid, since CS, and I love playing the op ever since. This is what I enjoy playing. Literally, my main enjoyment when it comes to FPS shooters is playing the operator. And this is what I put so much time to master. And because I've mastered something that I really love and enjoy, I am able to beat these champions, like VCT champions. And I'm able to consistently get top 100 Radiant. Imagine if I copy someone else's playstyle completely. I will always be behind, and I will struggle when I reach to the highest level. I will struggle. I won't break through a ceiling. Sure, I mean, you can get Immortal 3, you can get bottom Radiant, but you will never make it to the top of the top. You'll never beat these players. You need to become an innovator in a sense. Now, I'm not telling you go, if you like running it down like a monkey, so go master that kind of gameplay and that kind of play style, right? So that's not what I'm advocating for. But all I'm saying is that if you are going to watch pro players, instead of copy pasting them, draw inspirations. See if they're doing something related to your gameplay and if they're doing it correctly. And these are the aspects you need to draw inspiration from. Like, what are they doing right that complements my gameplay? What can I take from this? One other main factor to why Derke is as reactive as he is because he has this ability to isolate pressure. You will notice that every time before he takes a duel, he does what he needs to do in terms of gathering information, whether that's looking at the minimap, looking at his utility, looking at his teammates' positioning. He does this when he's at cover, but when he's about to peek, the only focus is his crosshair. That's the only focus. And this is what you need to do to isolate pressure. Now, you can do this basically just by playing cover angle positions. And what I mean by cover angle is you play in an angle where you can peek from and press your D key or your A key once, take cover, snap your eyes onto the minimap, your utility, your teammates, and then snap back to your crosshair and then peek. He always does this in a timed manner. This is the habit, right? Also, what Derke does is like a fundamental thing in higher elo. It's like an advanced movement mechanic in higher elo. It's an advanced positioning technique, right? So it's called adaptive positioning. What this entails is that, okay, I look at the top bar and I see what utility they have. Okay, they have breach. Breach usually stuns default position. Okay, so I'll wait for that. They have a KO. KO will throw a knife to deny my utility and get information. Okay, I'll avoid that, or I will ask a teammate to shoot it for me. Okay, they have a flash. I'll be ready. I'll be mentally prepped to turn away from that flash. Think of it this way. Adaptive position is basically when you're playing in a way where you're just avoiding enemy team's utility. Make sure to like and subscribe if you want more content like this in the future.